Hello. Today in talking about positive and negative reinforcement, we first have to discuss what reinforcement is. Simply put, reinforcement is simply increasing behavior. So say I want my students to be sitting in their desks. Once the bell has rung, I can reinforce them in order to increase the behavior of them being in their seats when the bell has rung. This pattern is shown very well by Woolfolk in the course book of educational psychology. Here it is shown. According to the Center of Development and Learning, reinforcement follows a clear set of basic principles. 1. Reinforcement always follows the behavior. 2. Reinforcement follows the target behavior as soon as possible. 3. Reinforcement fits the target behavior and must be meaningful to the child. And 4. You must use multiple reinforcers as it is more effective than single reinforcers. Now that we know what reinforcement is, what is positive versus negative reinforcement? According to Woolfolk, positive reinforcement is the contingent presentation of a stimulus following a response. In my own words, positive reinforcement is giving something in order to increase behavior. So, for example, giving stickers, giving positive feedback, giving candy in order to make sure the student increases that desired behavior. Now, negative reinforcement, as Woolfolk would state, is the contingent removal of an aversive stimulus right after the response that increases the future rate of the response. In my own words, negative reinforcement is removing something in order to increase behavior. So this is not to be confused with punishment, because punishment is very different in that negative reinforcement is we're looking to increase the behavior rather than decrease it. So negative reinforcement is taking away something in order to increase a desired behavior. For example, students don't like homework. Most don't. And so if you maybe say that if you guys do well on the quiz tomorrow, then you guys can be exempt from the homework for tomorrow. So you're taking away that undesired homework in order to increase their performance or increase their behavior on the desired quiz. So negative reinforcement is taking something away to increase behavior, and positive reinforcement is putting something in to increase behavior. So now in order to show you how reinforcement, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement works, I have chosen to come up with my own examples of applying them in a Spanish classroom. For both of these, it will be shown in a Spanish classroom at the Spanish 2 level. For positive reinforcement, I want to increase student participation in the classroom. So, in order to do so, I will give positive feedback, as you will see in this video.
One.
Hola, clase.
Hola.
Okay. Recuerden, ¿quién era la pintora mexicana? ¿Quién era? Emily. Frida Kahlo. Ah, muy bien, sí. Ok. ¿Y quién fue el esposo de Frida Kahlo? Yo.
Diego Rivera.
Ah, muy bien. Buen trabajo.
Notice that in giving positive reinforcement, it has to be authentic. If you're faking smiles or faking the tone of voice, students see through that. So your positive reinforcement has to be authentic and has to be heartfelt, and it has to have meaning to the students. Also, the positive reinforcement that I used was positive feedback, and even smiling, as mentioned, is a form of positive reinforcement, which these are essential to the Spanish classroom because in learning the language, we want students to be participating in class. We want students to be practicing the language, practicing speaking in the language. So it is especially essential in the Spanish classroom to give positive feedback to students participating in the classroom. In my next video, I will be using negative reinforcement, which is, again, taking away something in order to increase behavior. So in this example, the students, I am telling them about their homework assignment, and they all showed dissatisfaction for the homework assignment. And so I tell them, okay, we have a quiz tomorrow. If you guys study well, which is increasing that behavior of studying, if you guys study and do well on the quiz tomorrow, then you'll be exempt for this homework assignment that's due on Friday. So if you guys do well on this quiz tomorrow, if you increase your behavior of studying, I will remove the aversive stimulus of the homework.
Ok, clase, para el viernes, tu tarea... No quieren hacer la tarea. Ok, si hacen muy bien en el quiz mañana, no van a tener tarea. No tarea. ¿Está bien? Ok, estudien muy bien. Sí. Okay.
Sometimes in the Spanish classroom, there are different things that may cause a lot of anxiety in students, some fear, anxiety, say for example tests, homework, projects, class participation. And so as an educator, we are looking to decrease that anxiety in our students. So for example, in the Spanish classroom, if you notice that during a oral proficiency test, the students feel a lot of anxiety when the oral proficiency test is just you and them, but all the classmates can hear what they're saying in the oral proficiency test. So remove that. Do something else where instead of the oral proficiency test being in the classroom, move it to maybe a situation where the classmates can't hear the test that is being administered. So one way to do this is going to a language lab where all the students have to work on computers with headsets where they're listening to a Spanish video or something of the sorts where they can't hear the student that is going through the oral proficiency test. So this is another way of increasing positive behavior. You know, you're removing that anxiety for the students so that they can perform better on the test. You can do this not only on the oral proficiency test, but see where in other areas where students are experiencing anxiety and maybe what you can remove or what you can add to increase the positive desired behavior. A concern that some teachers may have is, okay, I want to use reinforcement, but what if my students then depend on that reinforcement? Like, say, for example, candy. You know, I'm giving out candy for positive behavior, but what if the students are depending too much on the candy, and if the candy is not being given, they're not going to show that behavior? Or how much candy do I have to give? You know, I don't have the resources to provide too much of a reinforcement, or how much of a reinforcement will I have to provide? And so, according to Kelsey Lariba Quest from Indiana University Bloomington, she said this is a legitimate concern to have, and she recommends that a way to go about fixing this problem is to use reinforcement thinning, which she says is decreasing the overall rate or density of reinforcement provided to the individual when they emit the target behavior. So say if you give the students a candy every time they participate, they've already learned to start participating in class. Now you don't have to give a candy every time the student participates. Now you can give the students a candy every 2 times they participate, and then every 4 times they participate, or on random schedules where it can be some days you give out candy, some days you don't. You don't always have to give a candy out for every time they participate. So reinforcement thinning is decreasing the amount of times or the amount of, say, candy in this situation that you give. So changing the rate or density of the reinforcement.